Well, the Carolina Panthers fall to the Patriots. Humiliating fashion, really. 42-13. Panthers with a pathetic sort of offensive performance. Defensively, just simply was non-existent. Coaching, play calling, everything under the sun, you name it. It was atrocious for this Carolina team. The main sort of sole focus of this video is going to be on their third-year quarterback, Bryce Young, who did not play well in this game. If you look at the numbers, it looks sort of like a game manager-esque game. But he, is... Listen, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? I will admit I sort of overreacted a bit in his second year initially, his first couple of weeks where he didn't look like a quarterback at all. And I overreacted, but he put together like three decent games at the end of the season last year and gave Carolina fans a lot of hope as to why they can sort of maybe at least look competent against some decent opponents. And it's not even like the Patriots are that good of a team. They're one of the more average teams in the league. The record says so. They're 2-2. They don't have the greatest offense. They don't have the greatest defense. They're just a really average team that's probably going to end up winning 6-7 games. They're not going to be anything crazy. It's not like they're going to make the playoffs. They're just going to be a team that is okay in middle of the road. Maybe can sneak up on a better team. But Carolina, it just simply put, is inept. They are completely inept. Dave Canales, the head coach of this team, is awful. The guy should not be a head coach. He was supposed to be some quarterback whisperer, but clearly Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers' talent made this guy look infinitely better than he actually is, because in reality, he just quite simply put flat out sucks. And as for Bryce Young, his play the last couple of weeks just is not inspiring a lick of confidence. You could say he looked good against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals were running a prevent soft zone coverage defense and almost gave up a massive comeback, which just they didn't, but they almost did. And they were just letting, Bryce Young dink and dunk his way, across the field, making his completion percent and making his, yards, passing yards and touchdowns look better than they really were. If you really take everything that he's done into consideration in this season so far, there's almost really nothing that he has done well. What has he done well, right? Is he throwing a bunch of touchdowns? Can't really tell. Is he keeping the ball safe? I mean, he hasn't turned it over in a while, but he's still got a lot of turnovers in the season, so you can't really tell, right? Is he throwing for a lot of yards? No, he isn't. Is he, leading the team to, maybe close defeats? Really? No, he isn't. This is a blowout, 42-13. He's very diminutive. He's small in stature. They're listing him as 5'10". There's no way. I'm not buying that. I've gone on record saying I think he's 5'8". We'll give him 5'9" at best. And that is on the short side of 5'9". That's for damn sure. So I guess we'll call him 5'9" for the sake of this video. He's probably an inch and a half taller, inch and a half shorter than Kyler Murray, the Arizona Cardinals quarterback. And once again, Kyler Murray is diminutive as well. He's very fucking small. The fact is that Bryce Young's not looking like a franchise quarterback. This is not somebody who is A, inspiring confidence, B, really being a good leader, and C, getting on-field results. A lot of people are going to say, well, the weapons, the play calling, I understand that. Those are actually legit concerns and valid excuses for why Bryce Young may not be playing to his potential, right? I get it to the fullest extent. But the fact is, a good quarterback would be uplifting their team. A good quarterback would make the talent on their team look better than they actually are, right? That's what good quarterback, and good quarterbacks throw players open, right? Bryce Young just doesn't have that ability, that it factor, or, the sort of skill set to be able to throw players open. He doesn't have a strong arm. He's okay athletically. He's not as cerebral as he should be because he's short, so you're expecting him to be the cerebral quarterback who is unbelievably accurate and poised and confident, and calm from within the confines of the pocket. He's not any of those. The offensive line for the Panthers is good enough. It's not world beaters. They're giving him time to throw the football, but he's just quite simply put not getting the job done on Sundays. So it's really a lack of talent on the team mixed with Bryce Young's actual lack of talent itself. He's, once again, diminutive in stature, sits about 5'9" in the pocket with a really pea shooter lollipop fucking arm. He's got cream puff arm strength. Decent athlete, just not really poised as he should be and not accurate. So we're looking at a quarterback that you can't run an offense, a vertical sort of a passing attack offense. Everything, it has to be a run-heavy offense. Everything has to be sort of underneath within like a 15 to 25-yard confine sort of box, right? And when you're only operating within those, the intermediate portion of the field and the short portion of the field, teams know exactly what you're going to do. You become really fucking easy to defeat. And Bryce Young, what I'm trying to say is Bryce Young doesn't really give you a chance to win, right? I mean, listen, the story last couple games was great, right? He played great in meaningless games that don't matter. I took that as maybe he's improving, he's leveling up. He's going to take his game to an upper echelon. He's not, all right? From what I'm seeing, he's fucking not. He's just not very good. And this is probably who he is. Third year, this is when you expect a quarterback to prove why he belongs to be your franchise, star guy. He's not even close to that, right? He's fringing on backup, honestly. Like, there's a lot of teams he would be a backup quarterback on. I'd say most of the teams in the league would not start Bryce Young because there would be much better options available for them. Because I don't think many teams would want to, start a 5'9" quarterback, right? And I could say whatever I want about his size, his fucking dwarfish stature and all that, and I say that about Kyler Murray all the time, calling him a dwarf and stuff like that. But the sad fact and the reality of the situation is that it's true. He's fucking too small. Like, that's a legitimate concern about Bryce Young, is he's way too small to play in the NFL. And he doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't have the elite athletic ability. He doesn't have any elite traits other than what? Nothing. He doesn't have anything. So he's small, has no elite traits, isn't cerebral. That's it, right? There's nothing here. There's nothing that points to me that, wow, this is a franchise quarterback, right? Will he win you games? Probably not. They're 1-3, and their one win, had nothing to do with him being good and everything to do with the Falcons having the worst day of offense they're going to have the whole year. Because Falcons look pretty good to me offensively. Michael Penix looked pretty good to me throwing the football against the Commanders, which are a much better defense than the Panthers, and they got to fire their coordinator. This defensive coordinator for the Panthers is just abysmal. He is the fucking drizzling shits of all drizzling shits. And that cannot be understated, folks. He is fucking just a shit stain on the NFL. That's putting it lightly, folks. But for Bryce Young, where do you go from here? Well, in my honest opinion here, I'm trying to actually be a bit more sane and rational in this video. In my honest opinion, Bryce Young, there's not many places he can go. He doesn't have the physical gifts or the sort of mental side of the game, or any sort of refinement whatsoever when it comes to mechanics. He still is hopping to throw the ball and still has erratic footwork and jittery feet from in the pocket. It's something that will probably never get phased out of his game. I know he's still a pretty young quarterback in this league, but to me, Bryce just looks kind of lost out there. He looks like he's lost confidence, and maybe he's a guy when there's no pressure, the stakes are at their lowest possible. Maybe he plays well in those situations, but when the lights are at their brightest setting, he's not very good. And there was expectation, there was pressure on this team to maybe take a leap, to perform, to compete with some teams that may be better, talented than they are. And they're not competing at all. I mean, they got boat raced in this game, 42-13. Drake May didn't look good, but their defense is awful. So really any quarterback can have a good day against them, for being honest. But Bryce Young, it's becoming a bit of a sickening and sad story, to be honest with you. Because it really feels like his time as a Carolina's, quarterback is really slowly but surely coming to an end. And I wanted to believe that maybe he has some juice in him. Maybe he could have been a good quarterback for this team, but, it's becoming apparently obvious at this point that this guy is just not the answer. And Carolina, listen, oh my goodness, the draft class coming up is just atrocious. There's really no quarterback. So I don't even know what you do. Do you give him a fourth year? No, you cannot afford to give this guy a fourth year, because you're essentially throwing another season in the garbage. You don't want to do that. You want to try to find a quarterback that can make you compete for a playoffs, because that division is not very good. Let's be honest. The division they're in it sucks. There's like one good team. It's the Buccaneers. That's it. The rest of the teams are trash. The Falcons are okay, but I mean the Saints are shit. They lose every game. They have not won a game yet. And that is fucking a fact. But as for Bryce Young, it's starting to look increasingly more and more over for him. And it's become a sad story at this point, folks. Thank you all for watching. This has been Mr. Truth, and this was nothing but the truth.